For Rivals.com, I'm Adam Friedman, Rankings Director for Rivals, here with National Recruiting Analyst Marshall Levenson. Marshall, you were out at Oklahoma's first elite high school camp of the summer, a couple hundred prospects in attendance there in Norman. I know one of the big ones there that we were excited to get a closer look at again, I think for the second or third time this offseason, was Oklahoma quarterback commit Kevin Sperry, Rivals 250 quarterback, 165 overall in the country and number 18 quarterback in the nation. What have we seen from Sperry up to this point?
I think the best word for it is just consistency. He's just a consistent guy. He's never getting too high, never getting too low. He's smooth in everything he does, and he's on a really good, consistent trajectory of where he probably needs to be at the time he gets to OU. Probably later this offseason or after this next season. He's putting on good weight. He's built and he's throwing the ball at a really consistent and smooth level, and that was shown again this past week. And wouldn't be surprised if he's up there for a few different camps with a couple of their other commits. Getting familiar with some of the guys he's going to be playing with next year.
Yeah, we've got him about 6'1", about 200 pounds or so. What have you seen from his throwing motion and his arm strength in terms of the development in both of those areas?
Yeah, he's, I was talking to a couple people around him. They were tweaking his motion a little bit to kind of refine some things. But the ball comes out really clean. He throws a good spiral. The velocity is not overdone. He stays pretty calm in everything he's doing. He's not necessarily forcing it or shot putting it. It's a clean looking throwing motion. And that just kind of goes to the consistency. He's got some pretty good trainers around him and coaches that have kind of helped him get to this point. And now he's at a new high school this year in Denton Guyer, where he's really going to be able to, probably take his football IQ to a new level. And obviously current and, projected sooner starting quarterback, Jackson Arnold was at Denton Guyer. So there's some people in his corner that are, getting him ready to be on campus in Norman. And, he's projecting well to being, a top prospect in their class this year.
Yeah, well, Arnold coming out of high school was a little bit better of an athlete than people give him credit for. I could say the same thing about Sperry right now. He doesn't look like an incredible athlete on film, but he's a sub-5 second 40-yard dash guy. He can evade pass rushers and has a little bit of mobility to him to, at the very least, buy time to get the ball out of his hand. And I'm sure that we'll see an increased level of athleticism once he hits the field this fall. And certainly looking forward to getting another a season under his belt so we can try to see what that evaluation turns out to be after the season. Another Oklahoma commit was in Norman this past weekend to participate in the camp. That's Zane Rowe, a 2027 defensive line commit for the Sooners. We've seen Zane a little bit already, and he continues to make noise out there.
Yeah, he, was really stressing getting to all of the OU camps this summer. So I think he's going to be at all four of the ones, that he's available to be at. Really stressing the relationship of the defensive line coaches there and that defensive staff, as well as some of the current players and, future guys that he thinks he might be playing with. Watch him go through drills and then do one-on-ones. And we've seen him a few times this spring, including at the Rivals camp in Dallas. He's learning the pass rush arsenal. He's still raw in that regard. And obviously he's only going to be a sophomore this upcoming season, and he's still a multi-sport athlete. So he's truly not even focusing on football full time, a good baseball player as well. So it's fun to see him kind of adding, tooling his arsenal every time you see him, but certainly a good athlete. He's quick. He has bend to his game. And that's, that you can tell that's what he's really working on right now, is bending on the outside edge. And so he was working with OU staff and getting some tips and talking to some of their current players that were helping with the camp, and really kind of just refining those relationships and kind of refining what the OU staff is looking for from him. And so he'll get a heavy dose of instruction from those OU coaches this summer.
Well, I know that they love what they've seen from him so far. He's pushing 6'4". He's up to close to 230 pounds, between 220, 230 pounds, a 6'5" wingspan, and some pretty good agility to him. We've seen about a 4.8 shuttle, and some other times that really point to the level of athleticism that we expect to see out of Rowe, and he continues to get better. And this season is a big one for him. We haven't rated the 2027 class, but Rowe, it would not be surprising to see him end up as a 4-star prospect, and at the very least, a 3-star prospect for sure. But with those measurables, he's going to be pushing up further than probably that 3-star rating, at least initially. We'll see how his game continues to develop there. I know Rowe gave some offensive linemen real problems during the camp that you were at, Marshall. Who were some of those offensive linemen, though, that stood up to Rowe and the other defensive linemen that were in attendance?
I think probably the first one I want to highlight is Noah Best, who was one of several offensive linemen that came into the camp without an offer from Oklahoma and left with one in hand. Best, a native of Owasso, Oklahoma, so not far, just a quick drive down to Norman. Grew up as an Oklahoma fan, which was another interesting thing to learn after the camp. But during the camp, was moving back and forth between tackle and guard. Traditionally a tackle, but when some spots opened up when they were transitioning between lines, he was like, "Shoot, I'll jump in there and go at guard. Why not get some reps? I don't really know what I'm doing there, but I'll go." And he was really impressive. And he's another one that we saw at the Rivals Dallas camp, and his recruitment has taken off with some big time offers, really just in the last 2 weeks. And Oklahoma being the newest one, and Texas A&M jumping in there as well. But an ideal frame, ideal size, what you're looking for. And like he said, he really doesn't even know what he's doing yet. He's still very new to this process. But he's certainly a prospect that I think we can see, like you said, with Rowe, push towards 4-star status, and he's in the 2026 class. So, he's one that we could see in the rankings fairly soon. He was one that I really enjoyed, especially with that versatility, both on the right side and the left side of the line. And then, two other interior guards there. Pupungatoa Katoa, a really big prospect. I think he's weighing in somewhere, 350 pounds, somewhere in that range. And you can definitely see it. He's a big guy. So he's an interior prospect, and we've seen him a few times this spring. And as big as he is, he has really good athleticism for that, for that position. He's able to slide back and forth and keep guys in front of him. And obviously he has some power in that upper body to kind of get guys, off balance and, use their leverage against them. And then one that you've seen this offseason, but Chancellor Barclay's a Rivals 250 guy, I believe. I know it was one that came into the weekend without the offer and left with one. And I think OU is going to make a pretty strong push for him. And I think he was at Clemson as well recently. So there's going to be some big programs coming after him. But another guy on the interior that really just kind of, did what he wanted against, what I'll say is it was a lesser defensive line group there. The offensive line definitely won the day. But yeah, the hand strength, the footwork, and then just creating a base. He was really strong and, pretty much, willing guys where he wanted to put them. And, the defense did not have a fun day with any of those guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a little bit of film on Best and Katoa and gotten an up-close look at Barclays during the camp season here. And first, with Best and Katoa, the two things that stand out, first, the lateral quickness that both of them have shown is pretty impressive for their size, but also the wingspan, too, especially for Katoa. You mentioned, pushing 350 pounds. He's not a massive offensive lineman in terms of height, but that wingspan is pushing 80 inches, which is huge for a guy who measures in somewhere in the 6'4" range. And Best is closer to probably 6'3" than 6'4", but still has fairly long arms. And those things usually translate well, especially when they've got an aggressive playing style like those two guys do. And speaking of aggressive playing style, Barclays is really kind of a fighter there in the interior of the offensive line. Not a lot of bad weight to him, has a really good wingspan, like you mentioned, could get a little bit stronger, especially in his base as he continues to develop, but really like his style, his technique right now. And certainly the measurables do him a lot of favors when it comes to matching up with maybe some of those freak defensive linemen that you might find in the Southeast and the Mid-South there. Switching over to the other side of the ball, a big-time offer went out at that Oklahoma camp this weekend to a very familiar name, Cooper Witten. That's the son of Jason Witten, the Dallas Cowboys tight end, Tennessee Volunteers tight end. Jason is also the head coach at Liberty Christian School in Argyle, Texas, and his son he's going to be a big name in the 2027 class. It seems like Oklahoma offered him this weekend. That was his very first scholarship offer, and it looks like Witten, like I mentioned, could be a big time prospect. What have you seen from the younger Witten, so far in the process, Marshall?
At this point, versatility. Obviously, being so young, a lot of guys his age don't really know what they're going to be yet. Maybe it's just because of size, or they're just so good to the point where they're playing multiple positions for their teams. And he plays both offense and defense at wide receiver and then the safety position, which is probably where he's going to project. Right now he's 6'1", 205 with a couple years left in high school. So we may see him put on some more weight and a couple inches, and who knows where he ends up. But obviously. Knows the game of football quite well, as you kind of mentioned, with his dad being an 11-time Pro Bowler. So, that was a fun one to see go out. He's going to be on the road quite a bit more, and I'm sure we'll see some other offers kind of go out. For Tennessee fans, he did say that he's probably not going to be there this summer, but he probably will be, in Knoxville for a visit later this fall to see a game. But with him, really good ball skills. That's the one thing. I mean, even for 6'1", 205 at his age, he knows how to use his body. He flips his hips really well. He's and a ball hawk too. That was one thing we saw at the OU camp was, he went up and got the ball. And so, Oklahoma being the first offer is probably going to be a big one, him being in the DFW area. And with Brent Venables' defense, he seems like a really good type of player that would play in that style defense. I mean, right now a safety, if he puts on some weight, might be, move down a little bit and be, kind of a hybrid backer. So yeah, that was a fun one to see go out, and it'll be exciting to kind of see how he develops. But right now I'd put him in the defensive secondary.
Yeah. I mean, those defensive backs at the Oklahoma camp had their hands full too. There were some pretty good receivers there, and Witten held up well against them from what I understand, but there were some receivers who gave a lot of defensive backs problems. Which ones should we keep our eye on when the rankings update again at the end of the summer?
Yeah, I think we'll go with the youngest one first. So these rankings won't come out until later this year, but 2027 Trenton Yancey from Arlington Lamar. Already 30 offers, 35 offers from pretty much everyone. He's going to be a problem for several years. And he projects as a potential top guy in that class, in that 27 class, among some freaky wide receivers in the 27 class here in the Dallas Fort Worth area. 6 foot, 185, but he's physical. He's a good route runner, and he flashes the hands really, really well. Ran some routes that put some guys on the ground. They couldn't really, keep up with him. Looked like they weren't even wearing cleats. They were just slipping and sliding. And he puts his foot in the dirt and goes. So he was an exciting one, and one that I think is gonna, maybe one of those 45, 50 offer guys, by the time it's all said and done. And with two other guys that were there, Quincy, Shelton, I believe he has an Oklahoma offer. He was really, really crisp. He's going to be a guy that gets ready here pretty soon on Rivals. And he has a chance to be a blue chip kind of guy. He's going to be one that his recruitment's going to take off even bigger here as he gets around the camp. The camp setting, he's got a little bit of a light frame right now, but he's shifty, good route runner. Is able to get in and out of breaks. And I think he's going to end up being a pretty good vertical threat for the next couple of years. And then Keidric Osunde-Brown, one of the, a smaller guy at 5'9", but he's one of those shifty types, really good route runner, strong hands. He was causing fits for a lot of those, interior kind of coverage defenders. And then he would step in and go out and go deep a few times. And, I think he does not have an OU offer this time. He's got, some smaller offers, Cal, UNLV, and Tulsa being those right now. But I think his profile is going to, expand with the next few weeks, if he keeps up performances like he's had, this spring, such as at the Oklahoma camp. And the wide receiver group was definitely, one of the better groups at any camps I've seen, this offseason so far.
With Yancey at the top, I mean, he's a big time prospect already. He's running times in the mid to low 4.5s already, and he may not be a one of those towering offense or outside receivers, I should say, but certainly a big time playmaker. And teams around the country are all over him at this point. So we'll be on the lookout for more of these guys as the process continues. Marshall, thank you so much for this update on big time prospects at the Oklahoma camp. I'm sure you'll be at a few more of those Oklahoma camps or Oklahoma State or any of those Mid-South universities. We'll find you out there on the road. We appreciate the coverage. That's National Recruiting Analyst Marshall Levenson. I'm Rankings Director Adam Friedman. Please remember to subscribe to the Rivals.com YouTube channel and follow all of the Rivals social media accounts. And of course, you can find all of our content on Rivals.com. Thanks a lot, Marshall.
Thank you.